Hi, my name is Mr. Ju, and I'm one of the psychology teachers here at SI. You can find Mr. Castro or me in room 314 at any time. I've been asked to give a talk about something really important, your brain. Now, I wish I could tell you this talk in person, face to face, eye to eye, but I can't. So I'm begging you for 5 minutes of really awesome attention so we can talk about how a drug affects your brain differently than my brain. Now, I think the brain is kind of like a bike. Exactly. Why? Because the brain is broken up into different parts that have special functions. Your cerebellum is in charge of balance. Your brainstem, heart rate and breathing. Your occipital lobe, seeing. Parietal lobe, your sense of touch. Frontal lobe, we'll get there. And then temporal lobe, hearing. In these next 4.5 minutes, we're going to talk about how drugs can affect that part of your brain and that part of your brain. Now, what does your frontal lobe do? It's best described by this story of a man named Phineas Gage. Now, Phineas is not winking at us, and he's not holding a gun. Rather, he was a railroad foreman. His job was to tamp down dynamite into little holes. Now, one day, when he was tamping down dynamite with that rod, it shot through his head, destroyed his left eyeball, and his left frontal lobe. Now, as you can see, Phineas survived, but he was not unchanged. His personality changed. He became more impulsive, he talked to animals, he swore all the time, he couldn't bathe or take care of himself. He was a wreck. The thing is, who cares, Mr. Ju? Well, your frontal lobe is the last part of your brain to develop. We develop our brains from back to front. Now, with experience and maturation, our frontal lobes get more connected with each other, and we develop this fatty tissue called myelin. Myelin allows those nerve cells or neurons in your frontal lobe to talk to each other and communicate much more efficiently. Now, why do we need to know this? Because many drugs affect how myelin is put down in the frontal lobe. Many drugs stop your frontal lobe from developing and firing. So we need to stay away from these drugs to allow myelin a chance to lay down its tracks. Now, remember the hippocampus? The hippocampus is in charge of making short-term memories into long-term memories. It helps us remember facts and figures for world history, that equation for math, and even that awesome birthday party from last year. Now, I would love to do an experiment in which I can take half of you guys and make you guys take drugs, and the other half, you guys don't just take a placebo or a sugar pill, and then 4 years later, I'd see the effects of the drug on like the adolescent brain. But that would be utterly wrong, and Mr. Ju would lose his job, right? It would be as wrong as this. A little boy drinking like out of a beer bottle at a Phillies game. Phillies fans. But there was an experiment kind of like what I just described. Now, Dr. Tampert, she asked kids 2 questions, actually freshmen 2 questions. She asked them, do you drink? And can I take a scan of your brain? Then, 4 years later, when they turned 18, she asked the same 2 questions. How much do you drink? And can I take a scan of your brain? She found that the kids who binge drank, which was only 3 to 5 drinks in a sitting, once or twice a month, that their brains, those kids that drank like that, their hippocampi were 10% smaller than those non-drinkers. Holy cow, guys, that part of our brains in charge of making memory was 10% smaller for these kids. Dr. Tappert says that's like the difference between an A and a B, or a B and a C, or a C and a D. So early exposure to alcohol could affect your brain, giving you actual brain damage. A third way drugs affect the adolescent brain differently than adult brain is in this idea. Neurons that fire together, wire together. But the thing is, adolescents, your neurons connect so much better than mine. That allows you to learn French a lot quicker than I can. Dr. Tappert says, nature made the brains of children and adolescents excitable. Their brain chemistry is tuned to be responsive to everything in their environment. After all, that's what makes kids learn so easily. But guess what? That also makes kids more vulnerable to addiction, because addiction is a kind of learning. So the earlier you are exposed to a drug, the better the chances that one can get addicted. Let me show you 2 examples. They did a study about kids and cigarettes. They found kids who smoked only one cigarette at age 11. Those kids were twice as likely to be a regular smoker at age 14 than kids who never ever smoked at age 11. Even if the kids who did not smoke again in the intervening years, meaning one exposure to a cigarette was enough to make a kid twice as likely to be a regular smoker. Holy cow! It's not just cigarettes. Look at alcohol. Look at your age. If one has a first drink then, they have a 40% chance and higher to suffer from alcohol addiction, compared to people who start their first drink at age 21 or older. They only have a 10% chance or lower. So the idea is this: the earlier the exposure to our neurons that want to fire and learn so quickly can lead to a more stronger, robust, sustained behavior pattern. So watch out, guys. We don't want to be Phineas Gages. We don't want 10% of our brain to be shrunk. We don't want to be that person that has no control over their lives. Right? I, not events or drugs, have the power to make me happy or unhappy today. I can choose which it shall be. Groucho Marx. Today, and for the rest of your time here at SI, I hope you have the power to make that choice.